Okay, so now it's time for our webinar. So I'd like to introduce Karen Young from Ethos Metrics. Ethos Metrics is a specialist Google Ads agency certified as a Google and Microsoft partner. Karen founded the business in 2016 after working for over 15 years in marketing roles at companies including British Airways and Virgin before she discovered a passion for Google AdWords in 2014. Please post any questions for her in the chat box for the question and answer session afterwards. We're now going to mute everybody and it's over to you, Karen.
Great, thank you, Jackie. I will just share my screen. Can everybody see that? Yeah, thumbs up, brilliant.
Yes.
Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour of Google Ads in 20 minutes. It's a big subject, so do ask any questions about things that I have missed out at the end. So I wanted to just start by saying, really, there's just two types of businesses. Most businesses fall into one of two categories when we're talking about Google Ads. You're either a lead generator, you need people to get in touch with you, pick up the phone, fill in a form, or you're an online retailer, you sell stuff actually online. So I'm guessing most of you would fall into one of those two camps if you were running Google Ads. I'll start with the first, lead generation. So everyone will recognize this, a typical sales funnel. When you're talking about getting people to get in touch, you're starting with awareness, driving interest, getting people to start taking action. And Google Ads can work very well at the bottom of that funnel. And I will go into what these different types of ads are in a moment. Remarketing ads are, it's just jargon that means that you're contacting people that have been in touch with you before, looked at your website before. Search ads are a type of ad that Google runs. And then at the top of the funnel, you've got what are called display ads and video ads, which are very much about creating awareness for your product. So everyone will probably recognize search ads. If you go to google.co.uk and you search for something in particular, an ad will pop up. And these were the first type of Google ads. They're the ones that still work best for lead generation, because it's the only point really on any marketing channel where you can advertise to people when they are specifically looking for you and your services. There really isn't anywhere else you can do that apart from on search engines. Google has a 85% market share or thereabouts. And Bing and all of the other websites, search engines like Ecosia that run on the Bing platform, so that's Microsoft Ads, have the remaining 15% in the UK. So search ads are a great way of getting people at the point when they are very specifically looking for your services. Display ads are the annoying ads that stalk you around the internet. You look at a product on a website and then everywhere you go, there it is. Even if you bought it half the time, if the ads aren't set up properly, those are display ads. You also have video ads. You can see this as a 30-second ad. They pop up on YouTube and done on other websites around the internet. A great way of getting a more detailed message out about your business if you have video content. And there's also one that I haven't got on here, but is relevant because we've got two app developers in the room today. There are app ads which run on the Google Play Store as well. So how do search ads work? You choose keywords. Now, keywords is just a phrase that it doesn't mean a single word. It means any phrase that someone might type into Google. And you put keywords in your account that you think people would be likely to type if they're looking for you. And then Google matches the keywords that are in your Google Ads account to the search terms, the things people specifically type into Google. And it's important to understand, and this is where a lot of kind of DIY Google Ads, people running their own ads go wrong. The two things aren't the same. Google, depending on how you set up your account, Google has some leeway in terms of how well it matches the keywords you've chosen to the search terms in your account. So to give you an example, we were asked to quote for an estate agent that was in the centre of London, very highbrow, beautiful properties, and they were advertising on rent in Chelsea. That was their keyword phrase that they had in one of their campaigns. And they'd given Google a lot of latitude to match that to things within, to things that people actually typed into Google. And their ads were showing for, rent a car in Chelsea, rent a hotel in Chelsea, and some slightly more rude ones involving rent boys and all sorts of other things. So you have to be very careful with how much latitude you give Google. So this is one we were asked to quote on recently. It was a company, she said to me, we do leadership training. That's what we do. Now, we could advertise just on the phrase leadership training, but it's pretty generic. A lot of people do leadership training. When you drill down into what she actually does, she said, well, it's agile. It's to do with agile leader training. It's actually online agile leader training. Now, the more you can get specific about what you do, the more you can get Google to show your ads for exactly the right thing, the better chance you've got of someone actually clicking on an ad and deciding to buy from you. And there's a huge amount of data actually in Google Ad, and if you can see that, you can actually look at how many searches there are, and how much you might need to pay for a click. So lots of data is available. You don't need to just guess keywords and hope that they'll be the right ones for you. The other really key thing to think about with search ads is how can you write ads to attract the right people and to put off the people that you really don't want. So we had a client pre-pandemic who were doing very expensive wedding planning. They didn't work with any budgets less than 10 grand as an absolute minimum, preferably 20 plus. They didn't want to be up competing against people that were talking about free online wedding planning, because they'd waste an awful lot of money on that. So we needed to be very explicit about how much you had to get in touch with them to stop them wasting their money on the wrong clicks. Then there's e-commerce stores. Have we got anyone in the room who does e-commerce, who sells online? I don't think so. So I will whip through this. There's a different type of ads available, shopping ads that you can use for e-commerce. You'll have seen them at the top of the Google search. This one happens to be for pink gin, and they work slightly differently. You have to set up what's called a Google Merchant Center to pull all of your data into Google Ads. So entirely different setup, doesn't work on keywords. We have very poor jokes in the PPC community. This is about the best one of the lot. You don't want to be appearing at the bottom of the search results or on the second page. So people always say to me, how can I get top in the Google search rankings? Google runs an auction. So every time someone types something into Google, there is an instant auction behind the scenes, and Google takes a huge number of factors into account. You'll probably all have heard of the SEO algorithms that decide who ranks top organically, so below the ads. But with the Google ads, it works on many of the same factors. One of them, but by no means the most important, is how much you're prepared to pay for the click. The level of competition is a massive factor. How many people are going after that keyword? There are certain markets where if someone comes to me and says, can I run Google ads? I will say, you can try, but there are 10 people, 20 people, other companies bigger than you who are spending 30 grand a month, 100 grand a month on clicks, who are paying £10 a click on those keywords. Can you afford to be in those auctions? So you need to know who else is bidding and what you're up against. There's this thing called the quality score, which is kind of like Google's version of a credit rating. So Google wants its search results to be good. The last thing Google wants is for people to start Googling and not find what they want. So they need advertisers to show relevant ads to the right people. And to do that, they have a quality score which works on a huge number of variables. It looks at how likely someone is to click on your ad, how well the ad's written, how good your website is in terms of how long people spend on it. How many pages do they view? How engaged are they with your content? How relevant your keywords are to the website? Can Google see the same meaning in the search as you have on your website? So it's exactly the same for SEO. If your website isn't up to scratch, you don't want to be running Google Ads until you fixed it, because you will pay more. And if you, so quality scores are out of 10. If you have a quality score of 10, you will pay approximately half as much per click as if you have a quality score of 5. If you have a quality score of 1 on a keyword, your ad won't show. So it's really important to run the account in a way that can make you money. And finally, context. So Google is learning all the time about what we're all doing. If I search for something, I will see a different set of results often to what you will see if you've searched, because Google takes our previous history into account. It's interpreting the meaning of what we're typing in context of what we've looked for in the past. So in a lot of the English language is ambiguous. You know, if I type golf clubs, am I looking for someone to go and have lunch with my mum and dad, or am I looking for a set of tailor-made, you know, drivers? You know, what am I actually looking for? And Google is interpreting that based on your past behaviour. So you will see different ads depending on what you've done in the past. Also, according to where you live, the time of day, and a million other factors. So the answer to how do I come top is really quite complicated. And often the answer is you don't want to come top, because you'll have to pay too much to come top. It would be better to be second or third. There are a lot of metrics in Google Ads, nearly 200. There's a few of them here across the bottom of the page. You can, if you don't know what your, you know, it's very difficult in terms of being new to Google Ads, in terms of understanding which of these matter and which of these are the ones that you need to try and optimize and to manipulate when you're running the account. So if you imagine it like a big data machine, you can pull a lever in one place that might make your click-through rate go up, but that will make your cost per click go up. And then you're going to have to pay more for your clicks, and it's all interlinked. And people who are new to Google Ads or running them themselves can get really tied down in the wrong things. Really, only one thing matters. Are you making money? It sounds obvious, but people forget that. There's this bizarre trust in Google that I see often. People will say, oh, Google's getting me loads of clicks. It must be going really well. Google makes money from clicks. Google made billions of pounds from clicks. It's how the whole Google empire runs. Without Google advertising, there would be no Google Maps, there would be no Google search, there would be no Google anything. So you need to remember that. You do not make money from clicks. You need to be focused on what really matters to you. And the maths actually is pretty simple at the high level. If you imagine that you're buying 100 clicks for £1 each, it's going to cost you £100, plus the cost of managing your campaign if you want to work with someone like us. Let's say 1 in 10 people buy after visiting your website. You're going to get 10 sales. Say you sell products for £5, you're only going to make 50 quid. Okay, that's a no-brainer that you should not be running that campaign. You've spent £100, you've made £50 back, at best, if you're running your own ads. If you sell products for £100, however, now you're making £1,000 out of that £100 investment. You're making £10 back for every £1 spent. That might well make sense for you, depending on your profit margins. And really, there's only a certain number of metrics that you can optimize for. The number of clicks that you buy, which depends on your budget. We work with people who have at least £1,000 a month to spend on ads. How much the cost of the clicks are in your market. They can range from 5p right the way up to £50, believe it or not, in some markets even more. The conversion rate of your website. So if you can improve that 1 in 10 to 1 in 5, suddenly your profitability of your campaign will improve dramatically. So again, coming back to your website having to be good before you start running ads, and also the products or the services that you choose to advertise. Generally, it's pretty hard to make Google Ads work on low value sales. You don't want to optimize for metrics like how many people have seen your ads, number of impressions, the number of clicks, the click-through rate, what percentage of people have clicked on your ads, how much you pay per click. None of those really matter in terms of being profitable, because it would be an awful lot better to get, to have your ad show just 100 times and to get sales from that than your ad showing 1,000 times, paying an awful lot for all of those clicks and not to make money from it. People get tied up on the wrong factors when they're looking at running Google Ads. It might well make sense to pay more per click if those clicks are going to lead to business. So if you're a lead generator, you need to be focusing on how many leads you're getting, obviously, form completions, emails, phone calls, and the quality of the leads that are coming through. To do that, you need to have your website set up properly with conversion tracking, which means that when these things happen, you know that that's come from a Google ad, or that a Google ad has been involved at a point in that journey. If you're an online retailer, it's an awful lot easier. You're just looking at return on ad spend. For every pound spent, how much revenue did you make on the website? And we run dashboards which track all of these things for our clients. This is an e-commerce one. So this client spent nearly £3,000 in February. The last click revenue is the money that was generated after someone had clicked on an ad and immediately bought. 27 grand, which means that they made just over £9 back for every pound they spent on ads. And then we also have an assisted revenue figure, which is where Google Ads was involved somewhere in the process. We can look at the number of transactions, the average order value. So all of these metrics are absolutely key. You never run Google Ads blind without knowing what you're getting back. But sounds obvious, but probably 60% of the accounts I audit don't have any tracking set up. Attribution. Anyone who's been running Facebook ads, has anyone been involved at all with Facebook, will know that there's some issues going on at the moment around how we track the results of campaigns. Basically, the big tech giants have for a very long time been able to use what are called third-party cookies, little bits of data that hang around on a computer and follow you around the internet so that Google, Facebook can know what you're doing after clicking on an ad. With the GDPR and all of the other privacy legislation coming in, that's all now being, there's bigger issues with them doing that. And so it's much less easy nowadays to say someone's clicked on an ad, someone has bought. So you need to be thinking really about the bigger picture and how all of your lead generation channels work together. This is something we see quite often in terms of people not understanding that Google Ads work as part of a marketing mix. They don't just work independently. You don't get someone, a lot of our clients are business to business. You don't get someone buying a £10,000 business service, say, who has clicked on an ad and bought immediately. You do your research. There's going to be lots of other touch points involved in that journey. They might have, signed up to your email list, seen you on LinkedIn. People take a lot of time doing research. I always say it's a little bit like going out for the night, having a G&T before you go, going to the pub, big night out. Remember those days, a few glasses of wine, and then saying which one of those gave you the hangover the next day. You can't say, oh, it was definitely the second glass of wine I shouldn't have had. It's a bit like that with Google Ads and with attributing revenue across all of the channels that you work with. So that needs to be borne in mind if you are running more than one channel marketing. And we always advise don't run Google Ads on their own. So at the risk of kind of repeating myself over and over again, if there's two things that you can take away from my presentation, the first one is fix your website before you start running ads. We can get the right people to your website. Absolutely. I'm very confident that we can do that, whether it's through search ads or shopping ads, video ads, display ads, whatever it is. We can get the right people to your website, but we cannot make them get in touch and we cannot make them buy. So if your website is not already converting customers, if you have no proof that your website can convert customers, you need to prove that first before you start throwing money at the problem. Because it's impossible for me, and we won't work with people who do not have a proven website. The second thing, be wary of Google's best practice and recommendations. I spend at least 3-4 months training new team members before I would ever let them loose on a Google Ads account. And the reason for that is a lot of what Google tells you to do is not what you should be doing to get the best results for you. It gets brilliant results for Google. Google makes money out of clicks. Everything Google asks you to do will be to get more clicks for Google. It won't actually be to get more revenue for you. So that was it from me. Feel free to get in touch if you're interested in Google Ads. And I think we've got time for questions.
Brilliant. Thank you, Karen. That was fantastic. That was really good. I'd been monitoring the chat. I don't think there was any questions. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, yeah. Francois. Yeah, Francois, do you want to go first?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Karen. That was great. When I pinged it directly to you, it's essentially with the change of the GDPR and the more difficult to attribute kind of the traffic or the source, is there anything you can do or things that you do to try and get around that or improve that missing piece of information?
So Google at the moment are being very cagey on what the plan is to resolve the issue. Their advice at the moment is use your first-party data whenever you can. So that would be your email list, if you have one, your list of past customers. If you have a really good size list, you can upload that to Google Ads, and you can target people using that list. It's securely hashed. Google doesn't, but Google can match that, your list of emails, to the list of emails that Google holds on us all. So that's one solution. Google is also talking about tracking cohorts of individuals rather than individuals. So we will all be put into like a bucket of, people based on behavior. And that will be the way that they're planning to get around the remarketing. Facebook is another situation, and there's various settings you need to enable to try and resolve the issue there. I think Facebook have gone ahead earlier on this, and that's where the big falls have happened so far in campaign performance.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant. John, did you have a question?
Yes. Yeah. Great talk, Karen. Thanks for that. You said right just towards the end about the two sort of don't do's, and one was not to use Google Ads if your site isn't converting. But I've had a number of clients actually who started using Google Ads simply because they haven't had the traffic, and therefore they don't know if it's converting. So I mean, obviously, is there a limit onto how much you should do in that scenario?
That absolutely can be a way to run Google Ads, and it can be used in a test case scenario. The issue for me is always that there's quite a lot of upfront cost in setting up a campaign effectively. So you have to be prepared that you could run a 3-month trial and get nothing back. If people are going into it with their eyes open, absolutely. If they're, and there's some basic kind of best practice around websites, what will convert well. If we look at a website and I think, no, this is a good website, they have a traffic issue, not a website issue, then yeah, absolutely. But it's always something that it's about managing expectations with people, because unless I can see that your website has a good conversion rate, I cannot promise you results.
Yeah. Right. Thanks.
Brilliant. Joe, question from you, Joe?
Karen, because that was brilliant talk, really useful. I was going to say, I used to work for a charity, and we were in receipt of an ad grant, and that is a fantastic thing that Google actually do for charities. So you get a free spend basically. But what you said about don't always follow Google recommendations is so true, because for ad grants, they constantly recommend stuff that you can't actually do with an ad grant that would break the terms and conditions of the ad grant. So I think that it's a really key point, in that as you say, they're just interested in clicks because that's how they make their money. So
yeah, I mean, ad grants are great for charities. You get a free it's $10,000 worth of budget for clicks per month. But you're right, there's a lot of strings that come with running those accounts. And you have to implement things in certain ways, but they can be a great way of raising awareness for, literally for the cost of managing the campaign.
Yeah, and definitely. And we worked with an expert like yourself, because it is a bit of a minefield to navigate. So it's, you can go very wrong if you don't know the pitfalls. So Great
yeah,
talk.
I know some charities that have lost their grants actually by not unintentionally not sticking to the T's and C's.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, that was great talk. Thank you.
Fantastic. Is any more? David, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned earlier on, we were talking about needing a minimum budget to make it worthwhile doing Google Ads at all. Is it something that if you can't spend £1,000 a month, it falls off a cliff and it's really pointless, or is it just a case of you're much less likely to see a return?
Okay, so it depends very much on your market. The reason I say £1,000 is because our minimum monthly retainer is £550 for ad spend up to £1,000, and it gets a bit ridiculous if you're paying us £550 and spending £1,000 on clicks. Well, £100 on clicks rather. Why would you do that? There are, you can contact Yell.com, the Yellow Pages people. They will run a Google Ads campaign for you for I think about 150 quid a month. But I've seen some of their campaigns; they're not good, and you're up against all the plumbers get the same ads, all of it. So to me, I always say to people, you've got to protect your click budget. You've got to be sure you're getting return on investment overall from the investment that you're making. And to me, if you could work with less than £1,000 a month potentially if you had very cheap clicks in your market. But the challenge is then giving the algorithms enough data to work with. So Google Ads is very AI driven. And if the algorithms don't have enough to work on, there's a lot more guesswork. We have to manage things manually and you lose a lot of the benefits. The companies that can get the best results from Google Ads are the ones that can afford to chuck a lot of money at it because the algorithms learn very quickly what works. Yeah, no, I guess I was thinking of, a small specialist retailer, say. Yes. Is it something that they should just essentially discount completely, or is it worth doing on a small scale, provided they're very clear about what they're trying to get from it? Yeah, we do work with a few small retailers. It helps if you have more than one product, and your product has a decent value. So we have a client who just sells a couple of sporty equipment in a very niche triathlete market, works brilliantly for them. But if you're selling, mugs for $6.99 each or something, it wouldn't make any sense. So it very much depends on what you're selling. Thank you.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, right. Well, thanks very much, everybody. That concludes our meeting, and many thanks again to Karen for her talk. I'd like to just say that if you'd like to join our community, please do engage with us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you like, leave us a review on Google My Business. That would be great. So I'd like to tell you about some of our forthcoming meetings we've got coming up. So in August, we're going to have summer drinks in person with Charles Burns, celebrity silhouette portrait artist, who'll be giving us a talk. So that'll be really good. Hello there, Charles.
Hello, everybody.
Liz Barkley, the Small Business Commissioner, will be giving a webinar on making the cash flow on Wednesday, the 15th of September. And in October, Jane Parslow will be talking about making effective decisions. Do you want to give a wave, Jane? There we are. But first of all, our next meeting is on Wednesday, the 15th of July at 11 o'clock in the morning with Claire Sheffield from Strong and Together. And she'll be talking about simple steps to brand success, how to succeed in your business ambitions by harnessing the power of your brand. Claire is with us today. Would you like to give us a little overview over that, Claire?
Yeah, I'd love to. Hello, everybody. So really, what is branding all about? Simply, it's just part of a toolkit for success. That's what branding is. In that toolkit, you'll also have, a good product or service. You'll have a business plan, a financial plan. So, our mission is working with businesses to help their brands work for them. So as a sort of a snapshot in the webinar, I'll be talking about how you can use your branding to achieve your business ambitions. I'll be going through some steps to ensure your brand is better understood. I'll also talk about making a brand memorable. I'll also talk about how to make your brand work specifically for your business. So you'll leave the session with sort of a greater understanding of what a strong, powerful brand is, an ability to assess when you might need to review your brand, and how to find the right person to work with, what questions you should be asking and where you should be searching. So that's me, Claire Sheffield, and it'd be great if you booked on for next month.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Claire. That sounds really, really great. So to book up for that or get more information, do visit our website on www.wearebiz.co.uk. So we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much for coming to this meeting, and thanks again to Karen. So it's goodbye from me, Rob.
Yep, goodbye, guys. Thanks all for attending. See you
and
next time.
Dave.
Great to meet you, and look forward to meeting you again at next month's meeting.
Okay, thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you, everyone. See you
Bye.
next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.